In the shadows of the ongoing headlines about the Universal Credit and Personal Independence Bill, a quiet but monumental shift is unfolding, one that could reshape the financial reality for millions of people across the UK. While political debates rage on in Parliament, behind the scenes, the Department for Work and Pensions is pressing forward with one of the most significant overhauls of the welfare system in decades. The transition is already underway. And for many, it's already knocking at the door. This is not a test run. It's not a drill. It's the final phase of a massive migration from the old, familiar benefits system to universal credit. A system that promises simplicity, but comes with strict deadlines and serious consequences for those who miss them. The plan? The government wants to move every remaining claimant on the old legacy benefits system over to universal credit by March 2026. That's less than 2 years from now. It started in May 2022 with what they called a managed migration. But now, it's accelerating. Some benefits have already vanished. Working tax credit and child tax credit are gone. Phased out. Finished. Replaced. But there are still 4 key benefits hanging in the balance, and for the people who depend on them, time is running out. So, what are these legacy benefits that are next on the chopping block? Income-related Employment and Support Allowance, or ESA. Income support. Income-based Jobseekers Allowance, or JSA. And housing benefit. If you are receiving any of these benefits, and you haven't yet moved over to universal credit, the Department for Work and Pensions will be sending you a letter if they haven't already. It's called a migration notice. And it's not something you can afford to ignore. Because if you do nothing, if you set it aside, forget about it, or think it doesn't apply to you, your benefits will stop. Completely. Even if you're eligible. Even if you still need support. This migration isn't automatic. The burden is on you to act. Every migration letter comes with a personal deadline, a date by which you must submit your universal credit claim in order to retain something called transitional protection. So what is transitional protection? It's a crucial safety net. It's what ensures that people don't lose money simply because the rules under universal credit are different from the legacy benefits they were on. Let's break that down. Imagine you've been receiving £140, 55p per week under ESA. Under the standard rules of universal credit, you might only qualify for £100. But transitional protection guarantees that you'll continue to get that extra £40, 55p per week to make up the difference, at least for now. It's a financial bridge, a way to protect people from being worse off just because the system changed. But here's the catch: if you miss the deadline in your letter, you miss the protection too. You can still apply for universal credit, but you'll be treated under the standard rules, and that means you could lose out on money you were receiving before. If you're sitting there thinking, what if I miss my deadline? What if something happens? Don't panic. The DWP has created a safety valve. If you can't apply in time for a legitimate reason, you should call the Universal Credit Migration Notice helpline at 800 169 328. If your reason is deemed valid and you call before your deadline, you could be granted an extension. But again, you have to act. This isn't something you can leave until the last minute. Now, let's talk about how to apply. If you've received your migration letter and your deadline is approaching, the fastest way to apply is online. You can set up a universal credit account and begin your application immediately. But don't forget, once you create your account, you only have 28 days to complete and submit your application. If you're unable to apply online for any reason, whether due to accessibility issues or digital exclusion, you can apply by phone. The Migration Notice helpline is there to help you through the process. But this is more than just a migration. It's more than just a shift in systems. It's a transformation of how support is delivered in this country, and it comes with serious changes. One of the biggest and most controversial changes is coming in April 2026. That's when the DWP plans to slash and freeze the health component of universal credit for new claimants. Yes, that means the rate of support given to people with health conditions or disabilities will be cut for those applying after this date. And once it's frozen, it's not likely to go up anytime soon. But here's a critical point: this cut will not affect people who are already receiving the benefit before April 2026. If you transition now before that date, your rate will be protected. So for many, moving early could make the difference between continued support and a painful reduction. This change is wrapped up in the proposed Universal Credit and Personal Independence Payment Reform Bill, a piece of legislation that is still working its way through Parliament, but is expected to become law in the coming months. The government argues that this reform is necessary to simplify the system and reduce fraud, but critics say it puts the most vulnerable at risk. And the numbers don't lie. Hundreds of thousands of people across the UK still rely on these legacy benefits. Many are disabled. Many are carers. Many are people who've faced unemployment or housing insecurity. These are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real lives, and for them, these changes are not theoretical. They are imminent. The DWP has promised that all migration letters will be sent out by the end of December 2025 and that all legacy benefits will be shut down by March 2026. That means that, over the next 18 months, the pressure will only increase. Every week, more people will receive letters. Every week, more deadlines will pass. And every week, people who haven't acted will lose transitional protection and possibly much more. If you haven't received a letter yet, don't assume you've been forgotten. The DWP is rolling them out in waves. Your notice could arrive next week. Or next month. Or just before Christmas. But when it does, the countdown begins. And for those who have already received their letters, the clock is ticking. If you're unsure what to do, don't wait. Get advice. Reach out to your local Citizens Advice Bureau. Talk to support services. Speak to your housing officer. There are people and organizations ready to help, but they can't do anything unless you take the first step. Because what's at stake isn't just a form or a letter or a deadline. It's your rent. It's your food. It's your energy bills. It's whether or not you can afford to keep the heating on this winter. Whether you can travel to medical appointments. Whether you can care for your children, your partner, or your aging parents. These benefits, legacy or new, are lifelines. And with the cost of living crisis still hitting millions of UK households, losing even a single week's worth of financial support can cause irreversible harm. And it's not just older claimants who need to be aware. Younger claimants, people who might have claimed JSA during the pandemic, or who were receiving housing benefit as part of a low-income household, they too must prepare for the shift. In fact, younger people might be more at risk of ignoring or misunderstanding their migration letters, assuming that universal credit will automatically take over. It won't. The transition to universal credit requires active participation. It demands digital literacy, time, and access. And while the DWP has promised that help is available, many advocacy groups argue that the system is still far too complex for those who are vulnerable, disabled, elderly, or digitally excluded. There are reports of people waiting over an hour on helplines. Others have been passed from department to department without a clear answer. For those without internet access, the process is even more challenging. This is why transitional protection is so important and so fragile. If you miss your personal deadline by just one day and you haven't contacted the DWP to request an extension, that protection disappears. You start fresh under the universal credit rules, which are stricter, more means-tested, and in many cases, less generous than the legacy benefits system. That extra £30 or £40 a week that was covering your groceries. Gone. That disability premium that helped you manage your health condition. Gone. And once it's gone, it cannot be reinstated. This is not about fear. It's about awareness. It's about preparedness. It's about protecting your financial future in a system that's evolving rapidly. Because the truth is, once this migration is complete, once the legacy benefits are gone, there's no going back. So take this seriously. Read every letter carefully. Check your deadlines. Make your application. And if you're struggling, don't suffer in silence. Help is available, but only if you reach for it. This moment, this shift could define your financial reality for years to come. Don't miss your chance to safeguard what you're entitled to. The change is coming.